Before and during World War II, the Imperial Japanese military forced an estimated 200,000 to 400,000 young women and children into violent sexual slavery. Euphemistically named comfort women, these sex slaves were acquired a number of ways, including outright capture or under threat of violence. The majority of comfort women were Korean, Chinese, and Filipina, but they could be found across all Japanese occupied territories. These young women were deemed inhuman because of their inferior nationalities, and therefore seen as tools to appease troops' sexual appetites and reduce STDs. Survivors of these atrocities are, even now, almost 80 years after Japan's World War II surrender, fighting to be properly recognized by the institution that stole their lives.
That has soured Japan's relations with South Korea and China.
Comfort stations were created in part because sexual violence committed by Japanese troops had become so widespread that it risked the nation's image. For instance, during the rape of Nanking in 1937, an estimated 300,000 Chinese men, women, and children were tortured, raped, and murdered by the Japanese military. Bodies lie in piles, females stripped of their skirts and killed where they were raped. Empowered by the directive, burn all, kill all, loot all, soldiers invaded homes and forced families to commit incest under threat of death. Babies were used for bayonet practice. Even the local Nazi deputy group leader, John Raab, was appalled by the troops' destruction. He formed the Nanking Safety Zone where he tried to use his influence to protect some 200,000 citizens. His wartime diaries, collected in The Good Man of Nanking, detailed the horrors he saw there. Horrors that convinced the Japanese military not to deter rape, but to systematize it. Most comfort women came from poor, rural communities. A common thread among survivor testimonies is that the first day left them in agony, bloody, beaten, and unable to sit or stand. Rooms may have been burlap sheets on a dirt floor, separated by cloth walls. At night, girls cried for their mothers. The end of each day signaled only the coming hell of the next. During weekly checkups, when they were injected with antibiotics that left countless infertile, comfort women were raped by doctors as well. There was no escape under the watch of armed guards. Many attempted suicide or fell into drug addiction. When the war ended in 1945, many survivors found themselves stranded in foreign countries or met with scorn. There was not yet social support for women to safely testify about sexual violence. The precious few survivors remaining, quite advanced in age, must now look to younger generations for help in their fight for restored dignity and a world without war. My name is Yuna Shawver, but I prefer to go by Yuna. Since I could pick up a pencil, I've been drawing, and I was just so into drawing and like creating worlds that it was never a question for me if I loved art or if I was going to do art. More recently, I realized that like if I couldn't draw, I'm not even sure I'd have an identity anymore. A lot of my artwork I feel like is kind of weird, but people tend to have this reaction like, oh, it's weird, or sometimes it's even grotesque or scary, but they can't stop looking at it because it's so, I don't know, strange, I guess. And that's very satisfying that I can turn like my emotional turmoil into like stuff that interests other people, I guess. Okay. My art is my way of escape, I guess. I have a mental illness that, like, you feel a broader range of emotions, and also the emotions are extremely strong, and they come on, like, in a split second. Like, you can just become like overwhelmed with like rage or grief. And it's a little hard for me to communicate verbally. So with my art, I can kind of say and express all the stuff that's constantly swimming in my head that I'm not able to articulate very well. Yeah, art is kind of, it's everything for me. I'm not sure exactly when I started to begin feeling dysphoria about being half Korean and half white. Yeah, I would ask my mom, like growing up, like, do I look more Korean or do I look more white to you? And she would always say, you look totally white to me. And I guess I was hoping that as I got older, she would start to say, maybe her answer would change, but it never did. And at this point, I'm not sure that I even care about finding a community I belong to, but I would like to just figure out who or what I am, and I hope that this experience will help me with that. I suppose this is the beginning of my art project relating to the comfort women. I'm hoping that people will look through it and they'll be moved, and they will see we are running out of time to reach our goals before all the survivors pass away. I'm just really ready to like see the documents and the comfort women and their artwork in person, and just like expand my mind on like the culture of Korea. Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a long time, obviously. Today, we are in the city of Gwangju visiting the House of Sharing, which is both a museum that catalogs the history of the comfort women, and is also a place where a few Hamonis are living right now. I knew it was going to happen when I got here. I knew I was going to start crying, and I just did, I didn't know what else to do but the most formal bow that I could. Just because those women are so amazing and they deserve so much respect. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I do them justice while I'm here. We saw one of the Hamonis. We didn't really get to interact with her, but we saw her like walking past, and it's just like incredible to be in the presence of someone who has endured so much and still like hopes like for the next day. So I have a tattoo on my arm that says "Gosen kutte naki onda," which is a proverb that I like to translate that happiness waits at the end of suffering. And I did it myself, which is like kind of crazy. I obviously wasn't like in the best mental state, but I really wanted to cover up my scars. And to come here and like, like the scars on their body were like so horrific, like worse than anything I ever did to myself. Just to imagine like the kind of like anguish that I felt, they feel it 1,000 times over every single day. And like how many of them like passed away without ever getting to see justice. I just feel like this is definitely the most important thing I've ever done in my life so far. And yeah, it means a lot to me. I kind of just want to give them space to like tell their story, and I'm just gonna observe. I don't really want to be like, just want to learn about all of them.
부산에 때 울산을 나무집 살이 가는데 이 사람이 니 어디 가니? 이름이 뭐야? 문이 없대. 한 사람 팔 하나 떼고 한 사람 팔 하나 떼고 그건 무조건 끌어가서 나는 그렇게 걸려갔대요.
하도 좋다 그러니까 거기 아마 돈도 많고 다 해주니까 갈 마음 있느냐고 그랬다고 했지. 그러겠다 했더니 갔더니 그게 아니야.
내 부대 이름도 알아. 첫날에는 죽을 것 같았지. 살 것 같지 않지. 그래도 죽지 않고 저도 죽으려고 계획했었죠. 목음에 죽으려고. 근데 그렇게 죽는 사람 있지. 아무 사람이나 그렇게 못 죽어. 그렇게 죽지 못하잖아. 그래서 나는 자네가 목음에 죽으려고 갔다 목음에 죽지 않고 살았다.
그래서 거기서 사는데 참 기겁스러운 일이 다 있었어요. 그래도 그 얘기를 다 할 수가 없지.
한날에 어떻게 군인 40명, 50명 졌어. 생각해봐. 군인 받는 것도 망상 받는 게 아니라 그것도 시간제로 해요.
전장 치는데 어린 애기들을 갖다 주면 군인들이 좋아해가지고 전장 이긴다네. 그래서 들고 갔단다.
14살짜리는 한 달에 군인 40명 내지 50명 받지 않는다고 우리 앞에다가 이렇게 세워놓고 한 사람 칼을 째는 거야. 째서 죽이는 거야. 그래서 죽여갖고 무도해주고 저기 역전 나가면 사람 차가 많이 왔다 갔다 하고 사람이 많이 왔다 갔다 하고 그런 데다 갖다 신체를 갖다 버리는 거야. 그래 갖다 버리는 거는 뭐인가 개 뜯어 먹으라는 거지. 개가 뜯어 먹으면 뼈 하나 낫겠지. 난 엄마가 들으면 어떻게 했는가 생각해봐.
어디라고 우리들 어린 것들은 근데 갖다가 그래. 그렇잖아. 그 어린 것을. 그래가지고 애를 먹었지 뭐도 나쁜 아니고 다 맞으면 많이 욕을 받어요.
그래서 한날은 내가 서울 받았는데 서울 받으니까 자꾸 빈독을 안 떼겠다. 뒀으니까 날 때리는 거야. 긴 칼을 타고 다니는 그거 뽑아서 날 죽이려고 날 이 칼짜리야. 이 칼짜리인데 이 칼 맞은 게야.
그래가지고 상국을 해. 그런 고통을 받았어요. 그걸 어떻게 이야기를 다 하나 안 했어. 못했어.
나는 펜싱대회 나왔어. 그럼 호랑이가 우리를 잡아먹으라고 산에다 두고 바닥에 내려와야 되겠는데 내려오는데 개처럼 거꾸로 엎드려서 이 손 들어가지고 길을 이렇게 매그러져 이렇게. 그래 나오니까 시내로 나왔지. 시내 나오니까 다 불바닥이 되고 우리는 해방된 거 몰랐어요.
그래 이제 찾아가니까 막 우리 아버지는 막 아이고 살아왔다고 그렇게 아버지가 좋아하시는데 또 우리 아버지 친구들이 그렇게 많이 와. 누구 딸은 살아왔는데 우리 딸은
아무 때 우리 엄마가 한국 다 찾아다녔어 나를. 한국 찾아다니니까 없으니까 집에 가서 우리 옥순이는 누가 붙들다가 죽였다고 사망 신고를 해버리지. 내가 오고 싶어서 온 게 아니고 이 집에서 배불러 갔어요. 걔 왜 고향 가고 싶지 않는가고 왜 가고 고향에 부모 형제가 다 있는데 그렇지만 여기다가 위안부 간판 터붙이고 어떻게 부모 형제 얼굴을 보러 가는가고.
나 하나만 살아왔으니까 그 무슨 구경거리면들은 자꾸 와가 울어. 누구 딸은 살아왔는데 우리 딸은 죽었다고. 그것도 못 보겠더라고 하루 이틀 아이고. 그래 보따리만한 걸 하나 사가지고 그때는 차가 없고 이래서 걸어서 속리산을 찾아갔어요.
뭘 할 때 제일 행복하세요?
지금 사는 게
네.
행복이 없지 지금은. 행복이 뭐가 있나?
I feel very sad. I don't know, maybe just gave me some more insight into I don't really know. I think I'm too overwhelmed to think about. It's just horrible. I guess you would say my most serious suicide attempt was like 8 months before I was contacted for this project. I overdosed on like a year's worth of 3 different medications. I remember like when they took me to the hospital and then like they made me drink a bunch of this like charcoal stuff to like make me puke. But I like in the hospital I was just crying and wailing for literally I think it was like 6 hours straight. But just like my whole life I've had this like I've always had this like just this feeling of like being wrong and impure. So I just felt really like alone and like I don't know if I didn't reject my Korean culture, but I didn't feel very connected because my impression was that like in this culture like the only emotion you can show is anger. So I feel like my anger, I expressed it through like self-injury. That's what I did. I would get very angry at myself. But now like I just can't imagine like taking like steel to my skin again after all of this. This drawing that represents my experience and journey here so far. So it shows me naked and, you know, because that's like very like vulnerable, but also like all these like slashes, like that's stuff I really did to myself like dozens and dozens of times. And I'm just kind of like face down in a pool of my own tears. But I think I'm ready to not be that person anymore. And so I don't know if I'm dead. Maybe I'm dead and that's like my old self. And the persimmon tree that we saw is like growing out of my back to kind of symbolize to symbolize my growth and also like acceptance of myself and peace into my heart. I've always been afraid to use my art for activism, but you know, I've done a lot of art that just expresses like the negative perspective of myself. You know, I can use my artistic ability for something a little more helpful to the world, which I think is in dire need of help. This statue kind of brings home everything that I've felt and learned during this trip. For this statue is asking us, where are we going? Where are we heading? I feel like she's beseeching me specifically to like keep trying to help. I mean, change doesn't happen overnight. It will take time for me to like, you know, I don't know, learn how to like manage things that I want to do. But I think I've got to stop moping, and I've got to stop letting myself get into these spirals of like my dark history. Doesn't really matter what other people's perception of me is. I am Korean. Well, not just because I'm Korean, but because I'm a human being. I play a part in this tragedy and how like we will address the tragedy.
The rally has been held every Wednesday for 27 years, calling on Japan to offer an official and sincere apology and pay appropriate compensation to the Korean victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery.
Right now, we're at the original Sonyo-san statue, which is located right across from the Japanese embassy. During the protest, I was very moved by the displays, by especially the young kids. It was really good to see a lot of young men there. But I was really thinking that I wish I could understand so that I could chant along with them. I was also really happy to see that there were a lot of people already gathered here, even though this isn't an anniversary day or anything. It's just another Wednesday demonstration, and it was filled. This corner was filled. That was really inspiring to see. When we first visited the statue in Glendale a few months ago in the summer, and I saw how dirty and not taken care of the statue there was, I felt so sad and kind of helpless. She's right here, half an hour from my house. No one's taking care of her. But coming here today, and I feel like I've armed myself with more knowledge. I think that we could help combat ignorance if more people visited museums, and like we're doing now, creating things, creating art, just to spread awareness so that people know what really happened, and they're, just reduce the ignorance. Ignorance is the real big problem with this. I say this as I'm crying, but I feel like I've awakened a strength in myself, and maybe I can help bring that out of other people too. Because this can't go on. It can't end like this. You go into this thinking oh, it's a project. It's going to be kind of I don't know, an intellectual project, and it ends up changing your entire life.
그러니까 이제 우리는 이 문제를 어떻게 하나 부끄러운 대로 널리 알려서 빨리 해방받자는 거지. 또 우리는 그거 받기 위해서 죽기까지 노력하는 거지.
Right now, we are sitting in the middle of my very first solo exhibition related to the comfort women in our documentary. I've wanted to create art that has a strong message about things that I want to see differently in the world. And putting on this exhibit today and seeing all the people and seeing how receptive everyone is really it's giving me a lot of motivation to continue speaking out about things that I care about instead of just hiding myself in fear. Since I've been in Korea, while I was there, I said that I felt like I had changed and I felt like I could be stronger because I was so inspired by the comfort women. But with mental illness, there's a lot of ups and downs. But when I've come back, I feel like I'm handling my life a lot better. I'm handling my stress a lot better. And I don't want to kill myself, I feel like my skills and my art, I feel like there's a purpose. I feel like my scope of understanding of the world is so much broader now. I'm trying to give myself more credit as an artist and as a human being. When I look at myself in the mirror now, I don't see a monster, and sometimes I see a beautiful person. But most of the time, I'm just looking at myself in the mirror and thinking who do you want to be? And your actions need to match up with that. Every woman that I know has suffered something in some way. I feel like this documentary has really, it sounds maybe silly, but maybe awakened the humanitarian in me. Just any time lately that I get scared or I feel like I can't do this, I don't want to see the next day, I just think about like the level of suffering that people can endure. Like I can make it, and I can hopefully make the world a better place.